Hello Marvelers, goodbye Rivalers, my name is KarQ. Welcome to another week of Hot Takes. We'll begin this week by answering last week's takes in my comment section. First one, I think Adam Warlock is actually a good answer to dive, and most people are like, this is not a hot take, it's pretty obvious, right? But it's not obvious for the majority of players. You guys are intellectuals because, you know, you obviously read the comment section and watch videos like this and probably participate in more advanced discussion about the game. But you have to remember, this game casted a wide net, and there's so many players who don't understand that, and I actually see too many comments on socials outside of, you know, this very intelligent comment section here that are like looking for answers to dive, and nobody really mentions Adam. So I thought I'd throw that out there and be like, hey, listen, 2 self heals for Adam to heal yourself to full. You're effectively more than 500 HP if you use both your finger snaps on yourself, and you have Soul Bond. Soul Bond is a pseudo defensive ultimate, pretty much saves you from anything for like the 6 seconds it's up. So like you have a lot of options to deal with it, and you have enough damage to duel the divers back. This is in comparison to some of the other supports where their only option is to literally run away because they cannot duel you back, such as Jeff, maybe Rocket. Although Rocket, people are saying obviously he does a lot of damage, but you have to be really close, and in a lot of cases it's better to just dash away. Cloak and Dagger, you may have one option, which is to obviously Terra Cape and duel them back. That's assuming you haven't already died yet or you have your bubble up, but in a lot of cases you have to stay in the dagger form and just self heal off of them and or sit in the bubble and just try to survive. Regardless, that was, I guess, not really the best hot take for you guys, but I'm just saying, once again, a lot of people don't know, so I just thought I'd point that out. Some of the top comments are like, yeah, is this even a hot take? Yes, people already know this. Actually, they're more curious on my stance on roll queue 3 months after the game releases. You know what? I will leave my comments on my take on this for next week's video, unless some of the takes you guys left later on that I'm going to randomly scroll through addresses it, but I'll leave that for a higher level discussion later on. Let's move on to the actual takes you guys left. First one, Human Torch is the best designed DPS character in the game. We're actually starting off pretty hot this time. This is coming from a Celestial Human Torch one trick. He only feels weak because every other DPS has something busted about them. He has clear strengths and weaknesses. He has good area denial and good burst and consistent damage, but that good dive and burst is locked behind his only burst mobility, leaving him open if you miss. He's also a flyer, and unlike Storm and Iron Man, he has to play high to get angles to make shapes for his E, which is like the cage thing, which makes him get shot easier. All his abilities work around each other while not being stuffed with random effects for no reason. Cough, cough, Bucky. His gun is hard to use, but it's not the main source of his damage, and when you do land his shots consistently, it's very rewarding. His ultimate, while the weakest part of his kit, still fits into his design of a pseudo dive / poke character with even more area denial, but also giving him a damage reduction to dive in and survive better. He has a relatively high skill floor and one of the highest skill ceilings of the game, if not the highest. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, the more I read, the more I understand what you mean by like a well-designed character, not necessarily strong character. I actually misunderstood it at the beginning. I thought you meant like, oh, he's the best designed and like, you know, one of the best characters to play right now. But in terms of raw design, I agree with the part where you're saying there's a lot of interplay between all of his abilities. Each of them kind of like play off of each other, although the biggest one, which kind of hurts his design, is that if he does opt to dive in, he is very vulnerable. So that's the risk versus reward. You have to kind of weigh that option. I think the only adjustment I'd make to him, like this is after the post mid-season buff, because they buffed him last week. I was in Japan, if you saw the video last week, where they just buffed Iron Man, Cloak and Dagger, and Human Torch just a little bit. But I haven't seen too many Johnny Storms in game, but I think the one thing they need to change is if he opts to like crash in and dive, it's okay for him to gain a little bit of shield or a little bit of over health, depending on how many flame balls pools he left on the ground. So if you're gonna throw 3 on the ground and dive bomb into it, I think you can be rewarded for diving into that and gain a little bit. I'm not talking about like an egregious amount, maybe like 20 to 25 HP per ball that he jumps in. So maybe 75 to 100 extra HP if he goes in and lands on it. Every time I have seen a Johnny Storm, I think I've only seen him dive in like 2 or 3 times because it's so risky. If you give him that option, like it's not even that bad if you think about it, because he doesn't have any other option to get out. Once he's there, he can't dive or have any other like crazy mobility to escape right away. So he's going to be pretty vulnerable, which is why a lot of them probably don't do it right now, but a little bit of shields that would probably help him out and make him a lot more viable while still like playing into his strength by being generally like an area denier and playing into the sky, which already puts you a little bit more of in a vulnerable spot. So you play your strengths, but then you have that extra option to dive in, making him a little bit more versatile. I don't think he's ever going to be hard meta for that reason, because he doesn't have like very big outlier strengths when you compare it to the other parts of the cast, like Bucky and other heroes that just do everything. But like some may argue that if if he's able to be tanky while he dives in, then he really can do everything because he's got long range poke, area denial, and big burst up close. But like that big burst up close is inherently much riskier than a lot of the other DPS cast who have to get in close to do the same thing. You know what I mean? So that's the only thing I'd say. But honestly, the take isn't even that hot when you say just by raw design in terms of interplay between his abilities. Next hot take is Jeff is ridiculously strong as a DPS, practically immortal, and more damage than most DPS. You literally lose because of flank Jeff in GM ranked. This is a lukewarm take. I wouldn't say he's ridiculously strong. He's like underratedly strong as a flanking DPS style play style. This reminds me of like the TikTok Moiras in Overwatch where like you just flank and assassinate backlines as Moira. I think you can get away with it more in Rivals because of the open queue-ness where you can actually like play 2 supports and play Jeff and act him as a 3rd DPS. So even though you're triple support by category, you're not really, because Jeff is basically acting as your pseudo DPS. I think the flanking DPS Jeff is way better with the Luna team up, which is why Luna still gets banned here and there because of it denies all the Namor and the Jeff team ups, and it makes Jeff flank, you know, infinitely worse without it. I actually would not play Jeff at all as a flank Jeff without the Luna team up. I think we had that in the game. I'm in Eternity now, and I think in a Celestial 1 lobby last night when I was playing, Luna got banned, and we had a Jeff one trick who was playing that style, and after our first lost team fight, he actually left the game. So I think it's his Jeff gimmick account, and like he knows like it's just bad value, and the game actually got canceled. Thank God, didn't lose any elo. But I will say, not ridiculously strong, but very gimmicky. You can shut it down in a lot of ways. Like he is pretty much immortal. You do have to pressure him a little bit. A lot of people say, oh, just ignore the flanking Jeff. You literally cannot. You actually have to shoot him a little bit, make him go into his little shark form, make him burrow around and like waste time before you can actually take some space and leave him. But he's a little gimmicky, and you literally lose because of the flank Jeff because people don't know how to deal with it. The answer is you do have to actually like pressure him out a little bit. You can't just fully ignore. So this goes for like Captain America's. This goes for any sort of like cheesy flankers. You do have to like look at them a little bit. You can't just full ignore. That's it. I guess that last part to unpack is he does more damage than most DPS. I think that's just false. He's safe, reliable poke if he has that team up, especially because he plays from a distance and just spits at you. It doesn't do like crazy damage because you can out heal it, but like it's annoying because he's spaced out so safely and he can just get away with his bubbles and fins and etc, etc. You get what I'm trying to get at. Next hot take is that Penny's ultimate is the only thing stopping her from being a top tier. At lower levels up to diamond, people don't understand how to deal with her ult and just run away, giving Penny huge value. But as soon as players realize that just jumping stops the spider bots and then they attack someone else, it is better used as a setup tool to get some mines down before the next fight. Damn, did you just give me a tip here? You're telling me that if I jump, the spidered bots that are chasing me in the web stop chasing me if I jump? Wait, what? I think if they rework the spider drones AI or replace the ultimate, Penny will be in a much better pick in the current game. Right now, the most value you get at a Penny's ult is baiting a support ult or to survive. When there's 6+ ults going off, Penny just becomes useless, with the only value being a lucky pick on a Luna ult, for example. Penny usually is just useless in the fray, with her ult providing almost no value. I actually sort of agree with this. I don't think this is a hot take at all. I think her ultimate is one of the worst ones in the game. I actually have worked with Cringe Alarm on a 1 Penny tip, just been putting it off a little bit, kind of waiting for Penny to be in a better spot before releasing that one. He's one of the best Penny players in the world on the EU ladder. He also agrees that Penny's ult is pretty ass, but I think Penny is severely underrated as like a chaser. A lot of Pennies play her as like I'm anti-dive, I play by my nest, I AFK here. But realistically, it's actually a lot better to use your web to sling around and actually chase people. You have a lot of damage, you have that click stun. I mean, especially if you set them up and like, you know, be really annoying. She's genuinely like not that bad of a hero at all. And I think, yeah, she is one buff away into her worst ability, into making her like an absolute demon on the ladder. Not much to add to that. Pretty much agree with that. Next hot take is that people get tired of the Overwatch comparisons, but there is years of hindsight we have because of it. Agreed. I mean, there's ways to be constructive about it, but remember, comparison is the thief of joy. And, you know, if you're nonstop comparing this and that and this and that, it can be pretty damn exhausting, and you're going to be robbed of all the joy you're going to have by playing Marble Rivals in a vacuum or playing Overwatch in a vacuum. But as long as you take a step back and are healthily comparing it in a way that you want them to succeed, then that's fine too. But like, we're on social media, so like the angry people are going to be angry, but I'm sure a lot of the listeners here are, you know, have a good head on their shoulders, and you can understand where a lot of the takes are coming from, right? Next hot take is that Marble Rivals is currently on the path to an exploding tank meta, with the sentiment being so negative around triple support. Sustain ultimates are most likely about to be nerfed heavily. That, along with Wolverine being so strong and the lack of counterplay against him, means the meta will move to max DPS characters to instantly take out the enemies. Triple support sucks right now, but they seem like a necessary evil at the moment to not make team fights last 15 seconds. I don't know if I agree with this because of the open queue nature. I think if you run the 1-3-2 comps and you keep seeing the solo tanks, then yes, there is an exploding tank meta where it's like everybody just focus that one tank and pop them and the game opens up for everybody else. But I think with the fact that you can run two, and I actually saw some triple tank last night in some eternity lobbies, I don't know if we're heading in that direction, and I actually think the triple support sustain has actually gone down quite a bit, at least in the higher level meta. If we were to opt for triple support last night, it was a lot of Adam Mantis +1 plus either Invisible Woman or Loki or whatever, and it's not the triple threat of like the Giga sustain of like the Cloaks and the Lunas and the Invisible Womans or the Lokis and like a combo of those four. That actually has gone down significantly because of the lack of like offensive pressure, and I can sort of see what you mean by them being a necessary evil to stop another meta, but when one meta falls down, another one comes up. But luckily, I don't think we're there yet. I actually think the meta has stabilized more for the 2-2-2, or if you are running the triple support, once again, it is going to be more of the flex support options where they're opting for the Adams, the Mantises, and a healthy mix of like the more non-traditional heal, press and heal for 8 to 12 seconds kind of buttons. But yeah, I don't know if we're on that path. So like, I don't really think that's, I don't really agree with this. And yeah, lukewarm take. I've noticed that certain abilities interact with destructible environments by instantly breaking the structure, and Vanguards should have a button as well, I guess. Group bombs takes an okay chunk out of a wall, but it could be better. Maybe the Hulk clap could punch a hole. The Thing has been my favorite version in the Yancey Street Charge, which insta breaks everything he contacts while charging, and honestly a good amount of the surrounding space. And then an absurd AoE with the slam. I've taken out the bridge on the first point of Central Park from the ground with that AoE. It also means he can't charge across certain flank routes. Yeah, this is a pretty lukewarm take. I think we actually had this take a few weeks ago where Vanguard should by nature break destructibles a lot easier and or do more damage against like enemy Groot walls. Groot is probably the best tank in the game, by the way, where if they get walled off, they can actually turn around and like use something to help break it, or else they're just like caught like a sitting duck. Because it feels like anytime anybody gets walled off, they're just kind of dead, and there's not enough environmental destruction kind of like multipliers for certain heroes. And I think Vanguards could benefit from maybe a tank passive where they do more damage against that. It feels strange how Loki is one of the best ones to do it from the strategist category, while like other tanks just like struggle, even though they're like the big burly frontliners and they should be able to break things better. So yeah, not a hot take at all. I agree. Hot take, they had it right with D ranks. We all agree that the rank system is a ladder system, and my take is that it's more fun to climb and then D rank and climb again rather than just being stuck. So I guess you're referencing the mid-season patch where they were originally going to reset people, and then people were like, no, it's too soon, and then now everybody stayed the same rank for the 1.5 season, and now people are not having as much fun, and you're saying it's more fun to D rank and climb again. Okay, I don't actually think a lot of people disagree with you per se, but like the mid-season felt so soon. It was only like 5 or 6 weeks, and they were already going to send you back like 4 or 5 ranks in the midseason before everybody got voiced out their opinions. I think they just either have to not reset it as aggressively, so like dial it back maybe like 2 or just 3 ranks instead of like 4 or 5 that they said originally, or maybe just like, you know, spread it out a little more. But then again, that is the midseason. I don't know. They say they had it right with the D rank, but like all these companies kind of know that for retention, a rank reset every season is the best formula to make people play again. Because if you're at the same rank, it's a long, grueling season of 3 months. Once people hit a certain goal, they stop playing. Pretty much been studied and tried and trued, despite what people say. People are like, oh my God, I don't have enough time to grind and they're going to send me back again. That's going to make me stop playing. But I'm pretty sure there's more people who stop playing when they like AFK a rank than to D rank and like, you know, play a little bit again. It can be demoralizing for some, but that's just like the vocal minority. That's just my take though. Like I said, I think this has been studied. I feel like that's why every single game does have a rank reset for all these kinds of things, but it's an incentive to make people play again. And a rank reset every season is good, but the mid-season, just dial back one of the knobs, which is probably the aggression of it. That's it. Hot take, some players meaninglessly hate on Wanda for requiring no aim. We're talking about Scarlet Witch. When in reality, yes, her primary is auto aim, but it's her secondary projectile, which is used to deal the major damage, and the primary is just used to regen the secondary. So if you want to be good at Wanda, you need to aim and use your projectiles. On a side note, I think it's fine for the game to have heroes which don't require aiming skills, but requires more of some of the other skills like cooldown management, movement, as hero shooters are not all about aiming. I do not disagree with this. I think this is a pretty correct take. There's a lot of meaningless hate for heroes with pretty low skill floors. This is like been tried and true and tested for all video games. Obviously, Overwatch reference again, people hate on the Mercy and the Moira players because they're no skill, because they have very low floors. Very easy to get good baseline value because they don't require much aim. To me, this feels very gatekeepy. It's because like when people play more of the higher mechanical skill heroes, they feel like anybody who plays a hero that is easier than the hero they play at. Like if you're a Black Panther or a Magic or a Psylocke player, and then you see a Wanda player get as much value, if not more value than you get real angry and you like to type in your keyboard and being like, you're playing a trash hero and this hero is trash whenever they see it. But in reality, they can do very well and perform very well, and you can see that even in Overwatch 2. Lots of more Mercy players find a lot of success in the game. And I agree. I think it's good to have heroes that don't require much aim, a little bit easier and accessible. I think I mentioned the story before, but like I see people who have like wrist issues or like cannot play like the mechanically intensive heroes, but then they have heroes in the game that are accessible for them with their, you know, their RSIs, repetitive strain injuries, their carpal tunnel. They play the simpler heroes and they have a good time. The problem arises when heroes like this outperform the higher mechanical skill heroes, because in theory, if you're better at the mechanicals, like on a higher skill ceiling hero, you should be rewarded by doing more, getting better technicalities, technical skills to like squeeze out more DPS. But then a hero like Wanda is pretty limited in her raw DPS because it's kind of fixed based on how much you suck and how much you throw your secondary fires out. But right now I think it's in a good spot where like Wanda is not overpowered at all and not an outlier. So she's like good. She just gets a lot of baseless hate because of the reasons I listed before. That being said, you still need to aim and use your projectiles, but like Wanda's aiming on her secondary fire projectile is still easier than a lot of the other casts. It's not like you have to aim very hard. You just kind of just aim at their feet and it like pretty much does the whole thing versus some of the more precision based aim heroes. But you know, other than that, I agree with most of your take here. Okay, final hot take, kind of in reference to the first part, if you made it this far. Hot take, this game will need role queue eventually. Open queue requires people to cooperate and one tricks only play one hero. Role queue solves 3 support comps or any other oppressing role. Should we visit role queue once again? So, when the game came out in December, my initial opinion was that I think the game would eventually need it, or some sort of, not role queue, but a soft role limit or role lock, in which we cap each role to a maximum amount, like maximum 3, minimum 1 is one of the options, where you can only have, you know, triple of 1, but it removes like the crazy outlier comps, like the 1 tank 5 DPS no support games that somebody will eventually run into, where everybody refuses to play support and is pretty much a GG off the rip. But in terms of a raw role queue, to answer your take, I actually disagree. I don't think it actually needs it. I'm kind of happy I didn't jump the gun and say like this needs it immediately. I kind of let Rivals play itself out over the last 3 months, 4 months, and I'm kind of convinced that, yeah, we're okay with it. I actually haven't run into too many comps where it was like pretty much lost the start. Surprisingly, out of like the 1,000 games I've played of Rivals, 99% of the games, genuinely, have been people willing to swap. And it was actually kind of refreshing to see. And I was not familiar with your game, Rivals community, because I was assuming, you know, we'd have the old dark days of early Overwatch where we would run into those crazy comps where nobody wanted to flex and we would have like 0 people on a certain role and it would just be kind of awful. Now, obviously there are pros and cons to role queue. Number one, like the pro would be to, you know, remove the outlier annoying comps and remove very frustrating metas like triple support. But sometimes even locking yourself into 2-2-2 can also create certain comps. It really just depends on what the heroes are available, because even when we had role lock in Overwatch, when one problem gets solved, it creates a new problem. When they got rid of the GOATs comp in Overwatch, then double shield became a problem, which wasn't necessarily in relation to GOATs in the triple tank, triple support. It was in relation to some of the hero design, the 2 shields, and you know, that was very annoying to play against, and so. Like, you solve one problem, new ones arise, and like, I actually don't think the game needs role queue. Like, that's it. You say open queue requires people to cooperate. I mean, even in role queue, like obviously you solved one problem in terms of cooperation. People are probably queuing for the role they want, but then there's going to be people who still one tricks will still only play one hero in their role, and you still have to work around that. You limit a little bit of the creativity, because I remember like there was a time in Overwatch where like the triple tank, triple support GOATs meta was actually beaten by a pro Chinese team that ran the 1-4-1 comp, the 1 tank, 4 DPS, 1 support comp. I think it was Chengdu Hunters back in the day with the Wrecking Ball composition. For the Marble Rivalers, that's like playing Venom plus 4 DPS plus 1 support is the closest comparison I can make it to. So all in all, not yet. I don't think this is a conversation that needs to happen now. Maybe I just have like I'm just like an anomaly. I'm a statistical outlier where like I haven't had the very bad uncoordinated teams, maybe like 1 or 2 in 1,000 games. So that's pretty much nothing in the grand scheme of things, where like we had a super uncoordinated composition. But anyways, I was struggling getting through this video because I have some terrible allergies right now, but thanks for listening. I'll be back in full force next week. Thank you. Goodbye.